Hey guys, how's it going, Rusher? And welcome back to another episode of Cards and Castles. King of the Hill has returned. Of course, you guys seem to love the first installment that we did, so we thought we'd bring it back this time with a different format, which will be explained later on in the video. But in case you don't know how King of the Hill works, I'm going to break this down for you guys before we jump in. So, King of the Hill obviously is a team of three players going up against another team of three, and whoever eliminates the first team of three will win. Of course, each player kind of goes up against another from another team, so you have the first two members going up against each other, the second and the third respectively. And of course, it goes on. If there are, players surviving from the opposite teams, they can go against each other in the next rounds, and so on and so forth, until one team is completely eliminated. Of course, though, the format in which we do these King of the Hills will be different, and like I said, we will explain that in just a moment. So without further ado, I think we can go ahead and jump right into that format explanation. So let's go ahead and jump back to my past self, who will do a little bit of explanation into the extreme Highlander we have planned for today. Alright folks, and welcome into King of the Hill. Of course, don't have a matchup yet because we're going to quickly jump into some stipulation explanations, as I mentioned beforehand. Joining me on commentary, though, before we get into that, of course, we've got Jump here. Jump, how you doing tonight?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Ready to have a blast. The last King of the Hill was awesome, and this one should be even better.
Right, extremely looking forward to it. And speaking of stipulations for this one, of course, going into Extreme Highlander, Jump, you want to give him a quick preview of what that entails for us here tonight?
So normal Highlander is where each card can only have one copy of it in the deck. Extreme Highlander is they can only have that copy of the card across the whole team. So if one player on a team decides to use one copy of Lumberjack, nobody else can even use a single Lumberjack in their decks. So
Right.
you're going to see 150 different cards for each team, and it should be pretty crazy and pretty fun.
And I'm certainly excited to see. We've got some great matches lined up for you. I don't know if you guys can see in the little Discord chat. But for the matches tonight, we've got Beastly vs. Tweakin', Bolas vs. Slash, and Asteroid v. Vesa, all set to be some incredible matches here. And especially with the stipulation, it's bound to be good. So, how about we jump into match number one here and see what Beastly Tweakin' have for us?
All right,
Let's
do it.
Let's bring you guys match number one. Alright folks, and here we are, match number one underway. Here we've got Tweakin' taking on Beastly. Tweakin' bringing out the Crusader Warlock up against Beastly's Ninja Druid. Jump, any quick thoughts on this color matchup here? Who do you think has the favor moving into the game?
Well, it's always important to, I'm going to start even before that, to look at the mulligan stage. Because normally you might have a lot of 1-drops and 2-drops, but there just aren't that many to stretch across 150 different cards. So we're going to see, I bet, throughout this whole tournament, the mulligan phases are going to have slightly later starts. We're going to see like 3 and 4 maybe even as the first turn played.
Well, we did see the Emperor from Beastly in a kind of strange position here. I'm not sure if that was an intentional drop to block off that spawn point, but
yeah, it's never positioning I would recommend.
Right.
Tweakin' can definitely take advantage of that if he wants to position a unit just one north of where his Gravedigger is currently. I think it's called a Gravedigger.
No, Stalker. Close, but
Grave Stalker, you know.
But looking at Tweakin's hand, though, we are seeing quite an interesting lineup. Of course, Luminaris Joanviev, a combination that we won't see maybe till later on. Or even gets the White Knight out. I forgot White Knight does count as a knight too. So maybe a little bit of Undead and Knight synergy going on here, potentially. I mean, that's always something to consider here. Fat Bard going to hit the field for Beastly, and Tweakin ever so vigilantly positions Blue Firebolt, so probably going to end up taking it out with, yep, you call it Blue Firebolt.
As soon as he can. No,
I mean, that's
good.
That's pretty good for him, I would say. No, he's getting some advantage on the board, generating a lot of units.
So you were asking about the matchup, and I wanted to say that it's hard to know really what players are gonna play based on their faction choices alone.
Right.
We can see Beastly opted that there are enough different return cards to make his single Throne of the Emperor maybe worth it.
Maybe, and I mean the
Um,
Rat King maybe could be bounced back here. We're seeing a lot of buffs though, at least cheap buffs for this Rat King to kind of wall up here, defend against this swarm
yeah,
push. We'll see where that
and I
goes.
assume Tweakin's got just kind of a good stuff with a bit of knights, a bit of undead, and a bit of no interaction going on. And
Potentially,
the
I mean,
fact that Beastly did not move up his Rat King lets me know, or lets me believe that he's got some sort of a return card in hand. So we'll see which one it is.
I'm hoping maybe Vanishing Strike to do a little bit of cleanup, but maybe I would save that
Vanishing
for the White
Strike would
Knight.
be
Kind of wasteful at this
great
stage,
here.
maybe. I mean, it would be great for the deck, but maybe not right now. Maybe trying to hold off until maybe he can swipe that White Knight away with the Vanishing Strike. But we'll see his response
And
here.
I
I
can
think.
imagine,
Oh no, go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I can I can imagine that's why he positioned his dojo. Is that one still a dojo? Anyway, his building not on the back row is because he started the game with the Rat King with return combo,
Hmm.
and he just wanted to make use of that extra space twice. But we'll
Certainly an
see.
option there. I'm kind of nervous though
He,
for basically moving
he
into turn 7.
certainly, yeah, he certainly has the option to um, let this Burning Man deal with his own zombie.
But the big issue is Luminaris is going to get some huge value out of the
Luminaris is
White Knight.
huge. Beastly doesn't
Yeah.
know what hit him.
Yeah, he's going
It
to take that
just
Luminaris hit, and I think that's going to be a very close
flattened
ending
out
to
the
the
whole
game.
turn, yeah.
Basically negates all
And
of
I
Beastly's
mean,
work here. There's not much you can say about that.
yeah, the the Rat King really needed a return card to be played on the same turn to block the upkeep. It really slows you down if you don't do it immediately.
I'm curious to see if
So
Beastly's
that's
going to attempt anything with this Swift Koru,
yeah, he would have to
or go for
have.
attack.
So that makes me think he's gonna go for an OTK next turn.
Which is surprising considering he's working with the Druid archetype, faction, excuse me, as
Right.
well. There's not a whole lot that I can picture in that specifically that brings out big OTK. I mentioned
He's got,
Vanishing Strike.
yeah, multi-strike. Vanishing Strike can only give you 3.
Right.
So multi-strike, there it is. So that's up to 10 damage now.
Certainly,
He
but
would
we
have,
didn't attack.
yeah, that's not gonna do it.
No, he'll infiltrate it. So it looks like Tweakin's actually going to take round number 1 here. A quick and effective play for him. Definitely think the Luminaris was that
Right.
big game ender that he needed to kind of just close out the match. It looked to be already going in his favor, but the exclamation point was hit with the Luminaris, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really helped and did wonders. As soon as he did that, we knew.
Certainly, certainly. I mean, not much that we. Jeez. Thanks, Tweakin. Thanks a whole lot, pal. So, moving into, I guess, match number 2 here before we actually jump into the game here. Going to have Slash versus Bolas, I believe, here. Jump, what do you think that we're going to see here? Who do you think's going to come out on top? Just a fun little prediction before we actually jump into that next match.
Well, we just saw Tweakin use up Crusaders and Warlocks, which are two very strong colors Highlander, in the Highlander matchup. So it's hard to say. I think I would give a slight edge to Bolas on him having both those colors still available.
Right, certainly.
But you never know until the match comes out. There are so many different possibilities with 50 completely unique cards on each side that we're going to see.
Right, and certainly curious to see if that trend will continue. We definitely saw a lot of interesting card choices between both players here, but I'm very kind of excited to see what might potentially be in store for us. So how about we jump over to match number 2 then?
All right, a bit harder to play with.
Alright folks, jumping into game number 2 now. It looks like Slash, aka Jimba, brings back the Ninja Druids up against Bolas rocking the Warlock Vikings here. So pretty interesting to see if maybe Jimba can't pull off what Beastly couldn't. He's got a strange looking board here, but I guess that's Jimba. Can't really complain there. But
Yeah.
anyway, Jump, what are your thoughts on what Jimba could bring to the table here?
So as I was saying, it is going to be a bit of a slower start, which means that the that Berserker that just got brought out could be stronger, but Jimba does have a 3-cost unit to play out in front and block the Berserker from starting to get too strong.
Kind of surprised that
It's
trade went in.
quite a good counter there.
Certainly. I'm surprised he actually took the damage. Gonna go ahead and disintegrate the rest of the mana core off, but gonna give Jimba maybe the leeway to play Gromak? I don't
Yeah,
know.
he also just drew a Northlands Ranger, which I would argue is a stronger way to deal with it.
Yeah, in this scenario here, now Gromak being a 2-1 is gonna be easily picked off by maybe Bolas Burn or, yep, like Incinerate. So there goes
There
Gromak
it
off
is.
the field here. Hassan Sadiq Guard's gonna make the follow-up play. Very aggressive here from Bolas, I would say, early
Yeah.
on. Kind of
I've got a
surprised.
question for you. I want to know your opinions on the global buff situation. Seeing as we don't have too many in the game, and they're typically included so heavily in so many decks,
Right.
how do you think that's going to affect the play, seeing as they can only really have one or maybe two per deck?
I would say that they're probably going to split up the global buffs maybe equally or the best that they can between the entirety of the teams. Maybe though, if one deck focuses more on Swarm, you might see the global buffs being tossed to them. Otherwise, you're probably going to see a lot of spells coming in here, bringing the
Yeah,
buffs that the global buffs would essentially be doing. And we're seeing things like kind of lunging and Icon in Jimba's hand, which I would say are buffs in themselves, which could help to turn the tide, sort of like how global buffs work. So I'm
right.
certainly interesting to see if any of those big spells make an impact, make a big splash for one player or another here. But we're going to see a little bit of undead synergy coming from Bolas here. Army of the
Yeah,
Damned plus Necromancer kind of hints off that maybe he's got the undead package.
and speaking of the swarm, he pulled out two units with his Hassan City Guards, and then 3 units with Army of the Undead. So if there is going to be a more global buff centered deck, I imagine it might be Bolas who has it. I'm wondering if Jimba's going to play something to block off his castle. Otherwise, that lunging attack onto the
Swordsman will be big,
swordsman will
very
be
big.
huge. Yeah.
I mean, Northland's Bear chips away the zombie. The fear doesn't matter. Oh, I don't like that Master
Oh,
Guard's positioning.
massive,
Oh, this is gonna be
massive.
huge. Hell, he can even throw the Icon at this point on now if he wants to.
He's hovering the Fenrir here, which is interesting because
He
he's
plays
gonna
the
get
Fenrir.
feared back.
Right. He sells enough for a lunging strike, which he's going to do. Okay.
Yes.
It's
And
gonna
then
be
I
big.
imagine the Fenrir is gonna come in right two in front of the castle, just like he does.
Yep.
And
Position Fenrir to be the game ender if possible.
Bolas has to deal with this swordsman,
I mean, he can
or
he
else,
can afford taking a shot on the castle here. You have to remember his Necromancer is providing those zombies with fear
right,
capabilities. So
that
we're gonna get
fear
a
is gonna be
cleanup.
very helpful.
We're gonna get a cleanup thanks to Talabos, Guard, and Zombie, although it looks like we're not moving the... Oh!
Oh, okay. So
We hit a Cloak
freeze has
of
come out.
Ice.
There aren't too many different freeze cards that are worth playing, but
Looks like Cloak gonna be the card that
that
hits the
that is
board.
one of them that is very, very useful.
And that might turn off Jimba's offensive here. I mean, he can do a little bit of work with the Fenrir, but I mean, Fenrir would just trade into a zombie. There's no point in doing that. I imagine maybe he's going to play Pack of Wolves that he just drew off the top to provide, some kind of unit boost. But other than that, yeah.
Well, he's got okay. So he had an interesting move. Okay, he's going to use Icon to kill it. But I was thinking he could have used Icon on his Fenrir there, and then positioned a unit one above his Flux, or
Right.
where his Flux was, now one above where his Ranger is. And that way the Fear would only fear him back 2 positions, and he could run forward again and kill off the um, what's that? The Necromancer.
Right.
Not the Necromancer,
The Talabos, the one that had
the
the code.
Talabos that was there, correct.
Right. But we
And
are going to see an interesting approach from Bolas, taking another action to freeze off the swordsman here. But I mean, Jimba finding the solution off the top. Centaur going to clean up the frost pillar, and
right,
I do think
companions coming in real handy.
Bolas needs to kind of just focus on getting rid of the swordsman here. He shouldn't be attempting to freeze it. I think removing it might be his better option here.
Certainly, at this point, with the 2 biggest freeze cards out of his deck, he's got to find a way to deal with the swordsman, preferably on this turn.
Looks like we might do a little bit of Centaur bounce here. Yep, Centaur gets played. Shadow Dance, yep, will be taken. Centaur back in the hand for another chip if possible here. And yeah, Bolas is looking to be in a bit
Yeah.
of a situation. I
So
would
if he's
assume
got an undead card here, that would be ideal to fear it away.
no, Keeper
And
isn't
then
considered undead. He can
no,
get one from
Keeper's not
Keeper.
considered undead, but yeah. No, hopefully his undead that he draws is able to stop this. Oof. Okay, that's one way of dealing with it.
Yeah,
I was going to say
fires the
stop the
spine.
swordsman. It's really got to happen right away. So he did manage to deal with the swordsman, but he's down to 1 card, which is quite worrying for
Especially for, yeah,
Olaf and his team.
Viking Warlocks even too. Slash, though, going to take more of a defensive approach here, going for the Liana to get some spirit trends, also being a little bit aggressive with them, so I guess that was fair. We'll see if Bolas can utilize those 2 undead units that he pulled and whatever he got from the top.
Right. So while there's not much on the board right now, oh,
Oh,
that's big. Well, while there's not much happening on the board, I'm just going to give a quick tip about Liana. Uh, when you're summoning Liana, it's always the first treant that gets summoned
that takes the damage.
that takes the damage from the other ones. So that's a big hit too. But I would have argued that he should have attacked with.
One of the trends
Oh
first.
no, because the other ones have Spirit Link, and it would have killed off the
Yeah.
Spirit Link. No, he did it properly.
We're probably going to see Slash make an attempt to potentially get his Centaur out, unless maybe he wants to block for Raka.
Now, I'm not sure the interaction exactly between the Spirit Link and Secret Dragon, but that could be an interesting combo as well.
Right. Creating one Trent to transform. Yep, it looks like it'd be a good
Right,
card to
and
play.
he's
Although,
and he's
if Bolas hits the Liana, I assume that Liana itself is going to turn into a Drake and the Spirit Link would get shut
yeah.
off.
I'm not quite sure. Oh well, I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know.
It's
Horseman
gonna
taking out
run.
the Spirit Link Trent before it even does anything of big value. We'll probably see the Horseman run up. Did Bolas pull a Banshee or Horseman from the second Keeper? I don't think we've seen that one. I know he had a Horseman, but I don't know what his secondary
But
Keeper
we
pull was.
do see the onslaught continue from these undead cards.
Right.
Unfortunately, his Necromancer is gone, so there isn't a huge amount of undead um, in, what do you call it? Buff cards left. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head is Rakanoth.
I don't think it's going to matter, though, unfortunately. I mean, we're
No,
seeing
it's
the sudden death tick away for Bolas. He's got no heal potential in the deck, and as long as Jimba can keep things off of phase like he's doing now, it's going to be very difficult. He can end the game at any time with that Centaur, you have to remember. He can just drop it in the next turn or two, and that's going to be the game
yeah.
ender right there.
If
So
he hits the Centaur on his next turn, that's a win.
I think what he has to do here is just clean up the units. Even though, again, it doesn't really matter yet. There's the Armory going to try and block for Centaur. I don't think, though, he can get enough bodies to make that block. So,
No, it
unfortunately, it looks
really
like
doesn't matter,
Jimba is going to
especially
get the
with
win.
with that combo he just drew. We're gonna see him hopefully play it. There it is.
Yep,
Beautiful.
knee strike. Gonna go ahead and just
Just clear out the entire board.
clears
The
out the
perfect
board
way to end a game.
indeed. Yep, certainly, and that puts Slash's team 2-0, and puts Astra in a must-win situation going into Game 3 if his team wants to stay alive here. Both Bolas and Beastly falling, and I think Asteroid. I don't think we've seen Pirate or Crusader from either of those two players, Bolas and Beastly. So
You're right.
that pretty much telegraphs what we're going to be seeing here for Game 3 and maybe even Games 4
Yeah.
and 5 if Asteroid can survive.
So it's pirates for both sides, with Crusaders on one of them and
Viking on the other, I think.
Viking on the other. That
That's
sounds
certainly gonna be an
about right
interesting
to me.
matchup here. So we'll see if maybe Asteroid can bring the what's it called, the game or the series back for his team.
Right?
But certainly looking grim for him, I would say.
He had a strong performance in the last King of the Hill. So we're gonna see if he can pull it off again,
Right.
or if it's going to be a clean sweep for Vesvin finishing off the series.
All right. So with that
Either
being
way,
said, let's jump to game number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. All right, folks, and welcome back. Game number 3 underway here, and just like we mentioned earlier, it is going to be the Pirate Crusader taking on the Pirate Viking. And yeah, like we said, match point for Vasavin's team here going into game number 3. Jump, who do you think might we see come out on top?
Well, you know what? Having an Earth Knight is not the strongest card, but having a 2-cost unit is quite nice.
Right, especially since we've seen, the earlier things get played, the more momentum starts to build. We'll see if that's the case here.
I'm going to give the edge to Astra based on him having some extra draw cards. I imagine this game might go a bit later than the other games have in the past.
More content for us, right?
Yeah, that's... it has the potential for a reverse sweep even. You never know.
Oh, there's Hovel, though.
But that's huge, yeah.
Hovel is huge.
And no direct removal for this yellow-green.
We're going to see Matty, though, as compensation. We'll see if maybe he can get a good mage pull off of that. Maybe hoping for a Tarius, but ends up pulling the Lich. Not exactly what you want to see here, but can do a little bit of work in keeping the Earth Knight around for maybe another turn or so. Although the idea of Rat Hovel to me maybe kind of signifies that Vasa's got the global buffs for his team, actually. Because, I mean, Mystic
It really
Rats,
could be.
Generating some buffs off the Hovel. It's going to be big. It'll be big if we can see some buffs get thrown out.
Now, yeah, that's the other thing to remember is the Rat Hovel is always such a big card in standard play, but without so many global buffs, it's a bit less of a nuisance.
Right.
Oh, and a Reclaim got drawn. I was wondering if it was going to be something that he runs in a sec.
Right. Reclaim gonna make an appearance.
He's ready to play.
No, he's
got 2 units left in his deck currently in his hand. They're both slightly more expensive units, and the Matty is going to be almost a non-unit, maybe a bit of a blocker, but not much more than that.
Well,
we're going to see Vesvin start pushing in, and here Astra is going to have to decide, does he play the Reclaim or does he play a unit?
I say he goes unit, put a little defense on the board here for himself, just to survive what's incoming. Knowing the Pirate Viking and assuming that he's carrying the global buffs on the side, the more units that Asteroid leaves for Vesa to use, the scarier the game gets. And yeah, Blacksmith make an appearance. Yeah,
there's one of them.
He's carrying the buffs, folks. And that is not great news for Asteroid.
Now, it's amazing. Without the Rat Hovel draw, the global buffs aren't as strong, but wow, is it ever paying off so far?
Such a glorious top deck. And we're seeing Asteroid, unfortunately, not taking the same luck here. The unit count, he's
forced
for
to play units again.
Yeah, he's hurting for units here, and that's kind of what
it really is.
Because
So what would it take to come back from this? I could
uh,
see it happening with a Frog Prince if he draws a Luminaris, but you really need some sort of area of effect damage.
something that just clears off all these small units, obviously, in one foul swoop here.
Yeah.
We know that Vaseven is typically an aggressive player. He'll go for the kill on castle when he sees it. So that kind of, like, once you can get around his initial pushes, once you kind of kill off his momentum and start pushing back here, he's much more sporadic on defense, I would say, here. But right now, this is his element. Just smacking castle, doing all the damage that he can, and hopefully killing off before the opponent can actually do anything. Oh, and an aggressive Griffin.
It's really, really looking for him so far.
Yeah, I don't think Match Thief was the pull here, and this might be a very quick game 3 here.
Yeah.
Which is a
It
shame because
looks
we were
like
looking
he's
forward
got,
for a longer one, but
yeah, it looks like he's got a dwarf focus deck with a dwarven mithril, and he just played the draw card with more if you have dwarves. So this is not
that's
what
the
he
game.
wanted to see. This is it.
Yeah, that's lethal here. And it looks like they're
And an
surrendering, not giving
early surrender
Vaseven the
means the clean
satisfaction.
sweep.
Oh no, they did it. Oh, well, yep. I
All
mean,
right. Well,
certainly
is
an
it a
aggressive.
quicker one?
God, thanks for killing
But
my content,
what an
boys.
assertive dominance. And you know what? We should go and talk to some of the players.
I don't want to talk to
And
the winning team because I know what they're
all
gonna
right.
say already.
Well, I would like to go talk to some of the players
All right.
and find out how they decided to allocate their cards with such a interesting constraint put on them,
Right. All right.
and
Well, let's go take a chat
see
with them.
what the strategies that were
Oh
involved there.
boy. All right. Here we go. Alright, folks, and we're back after King of the Hill has wrapped up here with the winning team, that being Slash, Tweakin, and Vaseven. Boys, must be feeling good. You took the clean sweep, as you've been mentioning for some time now. So, we'll just kind of go player by player here before we... Well, actually, no, Jump, you had something for just the team overall, right?
But yeah, congratulations, first of all. And I
Thank you.
wanted to, oh, I guess it's an open-ended question. I wanted to ask, how did you guys decide to allocate the different cards and strategies you employed, but primarily the neutral cards?
Yeah, Slasher,
Being
you
like
wanna?
the global
Slasher can field
buffs.
that one.
Did
Slasher
you
can
decide
field
to
that one.
stack it all into one deck, or did you
We
spread them out?
we started another Discord channel called the Drunk Tank, as all the fine lads in here, except for RedMaster, enjoy alcohol, and we hey, I included you in fine lad. Be happy. And so basically, we immediately said, "What if we're only limited down to a specific pool of cards? It's better to have one really good deck that can sweep everyone than to have three okay decks that could get beat by one really good deck."
That could break.
So, yeah, for sure. So basically, what I said is, since I'm the one proposing that, I'll take the hit. I'm not going to go be saying, "Hey, you right there, you tweaking. I don't like you, so take all the bad cards." No. Like I proposed all this, so then we talked it out. We had Veseven. He got first pick out of every single card in the game.
Right.
Then Tweakin. We calculated that green blue would be a very, very good combination because of the buffs and the number of buff cards that would go along with it. Then we calculated that Tweakin's deck should be red yellow, as that would also be extremely. There's a lot of cards in there. It's much easier to, once again, not brick. It's much easier to have a deck. And
it
then
can stand on its own without the common cards. It has enough units and enough global buffs within red and yellow that I don't have to, where I'm not, leeching off of common cards that Fisaven can use. So that's why we decided to go with red yellow.
Well, now in my experience with Highlander, it's usually in the best interest of the player to put in just good cards that don't require any synergies. You just put in kind of like whatever has high stats and just a good impact on its own, not like a Rat King Mystic Journey, which is such a strong combo on its own, but it's not nearly as strong one without the other.
Right, so that's why I decided to go with red yellow, because you have the likes of lifesteal, you have resolve. So I'm thinking, even if so if I can get a trade, like a Frog Prince, for instance, if I can trade 2 units for just 1 unit, eventually that's going to go in my favor. And I also, you have the likes of Blue Fire Bolt, Witch Bolt. So even if I do come across an armory, a Fat Bard like I did in my game, I can easily burn that off. And that's one less card to worry about, one less global buff.
Yeah,
and not to mention you have Unholy Altar.
Right.
And if I can get that out early, which I did, that is just going to be
No, it's just interesting. I kind of saw that theory come true with your team's decks tended to have more good stuff oriented playstyles, whereas many of the decks for the other team had more of a theme. You had the bounce synergies, and you had the zombies and the undead synergies on a different deck. So
and I think that just
really
goes
like
with
the way
experience. Yeah, I think that just goes with our experience and knowing in this format that going with a certain theme is not going to work well. You just don't have enough cards to be able to make a good enough theme. Yeah, you can make an undead deck, but the being able to draw like a Raka or even anything outside of that, it's extremely low because you only have 1 copy of each card. So it's really just straight RNG at this point. So instead of going with an actual deck or an actual theme, it's better in your interest to just make a deck has good units. Maybe that it's not a theme, but you just have enough units where you can have a board presence and you can have a backup plan. You don't really have like an OTK style deck like Beastly or Bolas is usually playing. So I think I just knew Beastly and Bolas likes to run an OTK style deck. So even with that, I think that's going to be a disadvantage for them.
Now, would you say this is useful to keep in mind for other players if they're playing the draft mode, since it's kind of close to Highlander, even if it's not quite?
I think with the draft mode, additionally, something most players discount is how powerful ranged units are. Because of how small a pool of cards you have, additionally, when you get into something like overtime, if you can continue a match out long enough, it's very easy to simply stall a game until you can just hit face with lots of ranged units and win the match at that point, where no player has any more cards they can draw. I think the biggest thing for draft mode is that you need to be saying, can I guarantee this card will work for me? An armory you can always guarantee will work for you. A ranged unit, for the most part, you can always guarantee it will work for you. Spells, not so much.
Yeah. How much value does this card work? This one card work? Not thinking about, okay, this card like a necromancer. Yeah, it boosts all your undead cards. But how many? Look at your deck. How many undead cards do you have?
Really have,
yeah.
So if you've stuck around with the video this far, that's a nice little bonus tip from top players. Red, do you have any questions for the team before we move on to the other side?
Just one per se for the entire team, because it's quite a coincidence that we saw both of the unit generators from each faction come out and make the appearance. Tweaking pulls Unholy Altar, Vasabin pulls Rat Hovel, both of which I think had a decent impact in the game. Gentlemen, would you think that the situation might have gone a little bit differently, or how do you think you would fare without those generators in hand? Because they were, in part, a large reason, I think, or at least on Baseman's end.
Oh, yeah.
The generators kind of cleaning up house here. But, I mean, like, what else was your deck really prepared to do because I don't think we saw a lot of that. We kind of just saw generators and swarm.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I'd
an,
like to
yeah.
step
Go
in
first.
here
Yeah, go for it.
and say that definitely the leader of our team was Jump, and he stepped
Where's Slasher?
in
Thanks,
and
man.
he kind of
Slasher.
since you guys didn't actually ask me any questions, I'm going to talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Jump really
Slasher.
Slash really stepped in. Jump's the one commentating, and Slash is the person that I like to call Jump.
It's Jimba, that's why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jimba. Yeah.
The Jays.
Can we erase that and start over?
Oh, for fuck's sake, no.
Just roll with it.
You can
Now
jump
that's gonna
cut
be in
this.
the video.
You can just jump cut this.
That's going to be in the video. Now that you guys know how I am as a person, if you didn't already, Slash, really stepped in and he kind of set up our identity as a team. And, he kind of came in and said, I see you, Vestaven, playing these colors and, kind of had an outline for what we're going to do. So from the very beginning stages, from day one that this matchup was announced, we had a very clear and concise picture, like for what we needed to do to, to come away with a win here. And so, yeah, the buildings were very important, and we were lucky to draw them.
Mhm.
But I think the main thing is we had a very clear direction from the very beginning of this tournament that allowed us to build the most optimal decks and end up coming away with the sweep.
Yeah, like Vasaven was saying, we didn't have to rely on drawing the buildings. We just put the buildings as kind of like a fallback, kind of just like if we draw it, we draw it. If we don't, we're not solely relying on top decking a rat hovel or an unholy altar, because you can very well go an entire game, especially in this format, not even seeing those buildings. So instead of building the deck solely around a certain card or a certain building, we decided, hey, yes, this is nice, let's throw it in. What else is nice can we throw in? And to answer your question more, Red, in my game, with my deck, what I was using when I was running was lifesteal plus resolve. So I was going more so where I was seeing, okay, what type of units can I get where it'll give me max value? What type of units where I can get at least 2 trades or maybe even 3 trades, and not so much. Not so much of, okay, how many buffs can I? What kind of deck can I make, like making a swarm deck with an unholy altar? And that's why you didn't see me running the necromancer in my deck, because I looked at my deck and I'm saying, do I have that many undead units? And even if I do pull the necromancer, am I going to pull an undead unit?
Right.
So I didn't run Raka. I ran a lot of night units, so that's why I ran Lumi, and I was very fortunate to not only draw Lumi but also get max value from that Lumi, and that was probably the play of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So I think my deck, I can't speak for Vasaven. I know for Vasaven for a fact that we gave him all the best cards, so he really didn't need the Rat Hovel, and I also didn't need my Unholy Altar to win. I had different avenues that I could take that would easily allow me to win.
Right.
So even though it was nice to get the buildings, we didn't rely on it. And at the end of the day, it is just RNG in this format.
Right.
Well, it really highlights how important the planning stage of the game can be. Instead of just running into the game with any deck that you shamble together, take the time to build a strong deck and think about the plan of how you're going to play it before the game has even begun. Shows how much that can have an impact. So again, I want to say congratulations to your team for having a clean sweep, and we're going to move on and talk to the other team now.
Yeah, the guys who actually try to give me more content time on this thing. Alright, let's go ahead and jump over to them. Alright, folks, and we're back with the other team. Of course, the team of Bolas, Beastly, and Asteroid here. Boys, I can assume morale maybe not too high at the moment here, but that is quite okay here. We noticed, I think, something that we were going to point out here, at least our opening question for this team here. We noticed a lot of themes going on throughout the deck. We obviously saw what appeared to be maybe a bounce deck from Beastly. We saw an undead from Bolas, and I think Asteroid brought in a dwarf deck. So you want to talk us behind the mentality of going with themes as opposed to good stuff for this event?
So for me, at least, it was more like there was enough card space to just run like something like that on the side. You know,
Right.
like
So you have good stuff with a side of a theme, and then the theme can work if it works out, and if it doesn't, you've got some cards to back it up.
yeah.
Right.
That's fair.
Now, another question I wanted to hear about is, did you guys try and stack one deck, or did you kind of evenly distribute it, distribute the power, especially in regards to the global buffs and the neutral units? Did you stack those on one deck, or did you spread them evenly throughout the decks?
They were pretty evenly spread.
Though I got quite a few global buffs in my deck.
Right, we
'Cause I
figured
was just
since
running a
you
lot of
had
zombies.
we figured since you had the Storm, you might have been carrying more of the buffs. We definitely saw the armory pop out, which kind of gave off a little indication here. So, I mean, that seems fair. Give the buffs to the guys who have a lot of units.
Yeah, so if you were to go into a second round, same opponents, same format, what would you change, and how do you think it might affect the outcome?
Guess for me, just like draw better.
Yeah, there's a lot of randomness that can happen with this format.
50 cards, all one copy.
so-
Yeah, certainly can agree with you there. It's, maybe didn't pull the best things. Although we noticed you pulled 2 freeze, which is, nice.
Yeah, that was good.
BC, you have any input? Feel like you haven't really spoken much. And maybe morale's low, but I mean, go ahead.
No, morale is very, very high. I'm happy for tweaking. He definitely he did he made the right choice in his colors, because that was like, I drew no bounce, then just the Luminaris just sealed things. That was it.
Yeah, I think that was sort of the moment where we kind of looked at your match and was like,
Yeah, I
there's
played the
no
Kuru.
coming back from that.
I played the Kuru. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go hide it up, then I'm gonna multi-strike, and I'm just gonna show that I can do 10 damage to castle.
We thought you were planning for some kind of OTK. I mean, we saw earlier things like Blessing. We may be looking for a Vanish Strike, if even possible.
No, the only possibility really for that would have been like if I had gotten the Shadow Katana. I already used the
Blessing.
the stealth one.
Oh, ambush.
Yeah, I already used that earlier with a rat to get rid of one of his 3-drop units, so it wasn't like I could stack that and the Shadow Katana and the multi-strike, which I had enough gold for, but I didn't have them. So I couldn't OTK. It was rather unfortunate, but it does happen sometimes.
Certainly the case here. Jump, that's gonna be all from me. Do you have anything before I wrap things up?
No, I think I got all the questions in that I wanted to ask, but wanted to say thanks for coming out to all the players, and it's unfortunate that the results weren't in your favor, but next time you could bring it around and clean sweep the other team, and give them a bit of revenge.
All
Yeah.
right. For
Took
the next
the
time.
$50. It was worth it.
Alright, folks,
Of course,
and
we
with that
went
being
for the
said,
speed run.
let's go ahead and throw out my future self to close out this King of the Hill event. Alright, folks, with that being said, I hope you did enjoy this edition of King of the Hill. Let me know what you guys thought of the matchup by leaving your thoughts down in the comments section below. And while you're down there, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Share it with friends, of course, subscribe if you are new or haven't done so already. It is the best way that you can show your support to the channel. And yeah, with that being said, guys, that's going to be all from me. So until next time, stay gaming.